Welcome to Trailblazing Career Tech Minds, the podcast where we explore the journeys, insights, and innovations of Baldwin Prep Academy. Baldwin Preparatory Academy is the first of its kind in secondary education in our region and even the Southeast. Education and industry are integrated at Baldwin Prep with industry partners involved in every step of the way, from curriculum planning to the design of industry-specific environments for education and training. So buckle up, get ready to embark on a journey of discovery, innovation, and inspiration. Welcome to the forefront of career technical education. Welcome to Trailblazing Career Tech Minds. I'm your host and career coach, Morel Baxter, and my co-host is...
I'm Brittany Eames, and science teacher at Baldwin Preparatory Academy.
Today's Trailblazer is Johnnie Frost, the owner of KinderKids.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Welcome to our podcast. We're excited to have you on today. So tell us about KinderKids, yourself, your background. How'd you get started?
Sure. So my name is Johnnie Frost. I'm the owner of KinderKids Learning Center in Daphne, Alabama. We are a multi-site early childhood educational company. We started in 2018, and we have been in operation now going on 6 years at our first location. And our second location is just about to celebrate its first year. So I am a Baldwin County native. I graduated from Fairhope High School, and our kids are both in Baldwin County public schools right now. We have a 17-year-old who's about to be a senior and a 9-year-old who is going into 4th grade.
Okay. Well, I have kids in daycare.
Okay. So you know the field well.
I do. So from your perspective, what essential skills do you think that our students in the Teacher Cadet Program can develop to be effective in early childhood education?
So I think the Teacher Cadet Program is really unique. I was fortunate to connect with Becky and learn about her program. Actually, it was kind of a relationship that was born out of our own frustration because after COVID, I think everybody in the world was dealing with a labor shortage. And so we were in the process of trying to figure out, we had teachers who were very passionate about what they were doing, but the one thing that we saw consistently was coming into our field that there was a lack of experience. And we started looking at ways that we could partner with organizations like the public school system where we knew these students were going into the field, and ways that we could get them classroom experience before they actually entered into student teaching and kind of graduated with their degrees. And one of the things that struck me when I was talking to Becky is that her program is very different because it does focus on the foundational knowledge of child development and everything like that. But she's very passionate about getting students into the classroom as quickly as possible. And for me, I can very vividly remember walking into the classroom for the first time. And I graduated from South. I had an incredible educational experience there. And even though I got to go into the classroom sooner than most students, I still walked in feeling overwhelmed and completely underprepared because there's only so much that you can learn in a classroom setting in college. So when I talked to her about the way she structured her program, it was very insightful and refreshing because she understands very much that the number one way to have a student that's going to become a successful teacher is to give them as much classroom experience from the very beginning. And so for us, that is probably the greatest, that's the greatest skill and experience that they can be provided just because of their level of confidence. They understand that it's not your classroom in a vacuum, that there's a lot of parts and moving pieces to the environment, and every day is a different challenge just based off of what you're dealing with in a classroom.
Ms. Frost, at KinderKids, do you have students come in and observe and learn, from your current workers, or is that something that you plan to have in the future?
So we do. We are different. We open up our facility to anyone that wants to come in. So we actually are partnering with the Department of Early Childhood Education with a new apprenticeship program that they have for early childhood education. So it's relatively new, but what we are doing is we are taking some of our current teachers who want to pursue degrees in early childhood, and we are working through that partnership with them, and through that we are getting students who are coming in. They are doing observations. We have a first class pre-K classroom, so we have a state funded pre-K, and that classroom, there's a lot of times that we will have students from different universities, from South, from Spring Hill, University of Mobile, basically anybody who asks to come in and observe, then we will open the doors for them, because our mindset really is the more access that we provide to people, even if it's something where they're maybe not 100% sure that early childhood is the path that they want to take, then they can come in and they can see that, for us, early childhood starts at infants. So we want to change kind of the mindset of what early childhood is, because a lot of times people only consider early childhood as that, for 4-year-old pre-K standpoint. But from our standpoint, we start at birth, and we will open our doors to anyone that wants to come in so that they can understand what that environment looks like and how our particular environment focuses on the educational aspect. So it's not so much that daycare mentality, it's more of, what are we teaching them starting in those infant classrooms, and how does that build all the way up to their school readiness when they walk into that first kindergarten classroom.
I love that. Love that it starts from such a young age, and it's not just starting at year 4.
Yes.
And so when you think about your future employees, because there's a good chance our teacher cadets will be listening to this.
Right.
When you think about your future employees, what are you looking for when it comes to who you hire on? What kind of skills would you like for them to have?
So we have a mindset and a mentality when we're hiring that we hire for attitude, we don't hire for aptitude. So we are looking for people who come in and from the very beginning they show a passion and they show a real desire, one, to make a difference, because we want them to understand that this is a field where you are committing to changing the lives of students, and really what is their end goal. When we are asking questions and we're interviewing them, we're talking to them about what their long-term success is. And we see them from, a very large, array. Some of them only want to work and, they don't have aspirations to necessarily be a lead teacher. But for us, we understand that early childhood is composed of a lot of different type of support personnel. So what we really look for in them is the ones that they are truly trying to understand, what does child development look like? What does an early childhood classroom look like? And what can I do in order to kind of fit into this program? And at the same time, we're interviewing them for where we can take them, and what avenues that we can offer to them at the same time. Which is why when we look at them, we can very quickly determine what path on that apprenticeship that we can set them up with. Some of them start at a lower level and work their way up, and then some may graduate straight to getting their bachelor's degree, depending on where they're at. And it's a very specific and it's a very unique thing for each candidate.
I love that you're starting an apprenticeship. I had no idea about that, your business, until you just said it. So where are y'all in the process of that? Is it already running? Where are y'all at on that?
So we actually have our first apprentice, and the way the apprenticeship works with the Department of Early Childhood Education is it's very unique. It's a one-to-one mentorship. So we have to make sure that we have other staff that are qualified to act as the mentors for each apprentice. So we have one apprentice now. She actually is what they consider an ECE 3 because she has the majority of her undergraduate prerequisites and everything.
Are there any partnerships with Coastal on this, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So the apprenticeship is designed where it is a partnership with Coastal and University of West Alabama.
Okay.
So the lower level students, they get their undergraduate and all of their prerequisites at Coastal, and then there is a agreement in place that those credits now transfer to UWA, and they can finish that degree at UWA.
That's awesome. I can't tell you what that means to me as a mom with 2 in daycare. I mean, the first time that I put my son in daycare, I had a spreadsheet of over 20 daycares in Baldwin County, and nobody was taking anybody. I'm on 17 wait list. So to create that pipeline for students to get right into this industry, oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Well, and I think for me, I remember when I walked into a classroom, I didn't have the ability. I mean, I had additional student teaching experience just because of some pilot programs that South was doing at the time. But I look back now and I think, man, if somebody had offered me a job working in a preschool, but I wasn't. I was working in insurance. And so, we did the best that we could with what we had. But I think there's just something very unique about learning the theory in a classroom setting and then seeing that theory applied in real life and in real time. And I go back to, like you're looking at students and they're learning about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and they hear it in the classroom. It doesn't really make a lot of sense at the time, but then you get little Susie who comes in and her parents are going through a divorce and she's back and forth, and then she starts acting out. And the teachers can see, oh, well, her sense of security is not being met. So what can I do to build that trust with her to give her that basic need so that we can make sure she's learning all of the educational components and, meeting all the guidelines for, her education, but they're able to see those things in real time. And so it's not an abstract concept that they're learning from a textbook, because they're seeing it happen, as they're learning it in their coursework.
So what credential are they coming out with your apprenticeship program?
So they can choose. We have some who start with what's called a CDA, which is Child Development Associate. It's kind of the base level credential for childcare. It is also one of those that it's very few people have them. So we have made it a requirement for our particular company that they have to pursue some type of education. One of our core values is continuing education. So they have to choose some type of career path. They can go all the way up to getting their bachelor's. When they graduate with that bachelor's from University of West Alabama, it's a degreed program, it's a credentialed program, so they will actually graduate with their bachelor's in early childhood education, and they will be able to receive their Alabama teaching certificate.
That's awesome. We
We actually have some too that, because education is so important to us, we have several who are pursuing their master's on their own. So we provide a lot of assistance to them. We go out and try to help them find educational assistance. Even master's level, where there's not a whole lot of scholarships, there are still some scholarships that are available to them that we're working on, just so that we can help them offset that cost and continue them to pursue their own education.
That's really amazing.
We're very, very fortunate. We have a great group, and they really do value education as much as we do.
So tell us a little bit about how you partner. I know you're a really awesome advisory member on Ms. Tomaso's advisory board. So how do you specifically partner with our CTE program, Teacher Cadet?
So we work with the program. One of the first ways that we work with the program is looking at the skills that students may need, and then making sure that whatever requirements that the teachers have meet the requirements and align with the specific requirements that we have for, licensing, or, to work in our environment. There are specific requirements that are a little bit different than working in a public school. So one of the big ways that we work with is making sure that whatever components are built into the Teacher Cadet Program are built in such a way that those students could come out and immediately go to work in an environment like ours. because I think the big thing for early childhood education and a lot of what we're seeing is that when we think about early childhood education, there was always two mindsets. There was daycare and then there was pre-K. But what we're seeing is we're starting to see a shift from a national level where people are understanding that early childhood really is birth up through pre-K. And in that, each environment is different because you may have a private, you may have a private child care center like ours, all the way up to a private preschool and public preschool. So there's not a one size fits all description or environment that the teachers may be able to work in. So how do we make sure that they come out with all of the skills that they need to work in any of those environments?
That's awesome.
Ms. Frost, how do you see this field in education? How do you see it changing in the years to come?
I think one of the big changes that we are starting to see is a shift in the mindset. Early childhood education in general has changed drastically since COVID. For us in our particular area, what we have really worked on and what is kind of what our passion is changing the mindset of what early childhood looks like. So for years, it has just been daycare and daycare equals babysitting. And so one of the big things that I do from my standpoint, working here locally and at a state level and even to some degree at a national level, is changing the mindset of our parents, of the public, and of the community, where they understand that even though I have an infant teacher and she's caring for babies, she's still a professional at what she does. And everything that she does has a direct impact on the next age level. And it's really looking at what does that foundation for early childhood look like? What does it look like to build a strong foundation in those infant toddler years that's going to drive their success from a school age setting? And really looking at what we can do in our setting to make sure that students are not just prepared from an instructional standpoint, but prepared from a social emotional standpoint when they walk into a public school setting. But one of the big changes that I see in the field in general is there's going to have to be a mindset shift. It's not a surprise to anybody that teacher retention is something that every school system, public, private, everybody is changing. And we hear a lot about retention from a business standpoint, and there's a lot of talk about employee retention and building benefits and structures that increase that retention. But you don't hear a lot of public discussion about teacher retention, especially in a public school setting. And I think that one of the big shifts it's twofold. There has to be a discussion about how do we retain quality teachers, and so that they're not leaving the field. And then at the same time, how do you prepare new students and new teachers for coming in? And for me, a lot of what I see in some of the conversations that we've had, from a national level it's a mentorship program. Because you've got to take teachers who still have that desire, still have that passion, haven't reached that I'm tired and I've been doing this a long time stage, and you pair them with a student, and it's a non-negotiable. This isn't something that we try to do. This is a must, so that the teachers coming in have a support system.
So important.
Yeah, and because the teachers that are coming in, they're facing challenges that didn't exist 10 years ago. And it's all of those things, and how do you navigate that? What does that look like? How do you balance high stakes testing with the emotional needs of your students? And the only way that you're going to be able to prepare new teachers is by pairing them with someone who has walked through that fire and can say, hey, I'm here to tell you, you're going to come out on the other side. Don't give up after 3 years, and
chills.
Yeah, it's just, well, and I think because I went through that, I did walk away, and I kind of roundabout came back to education and didn't think I ever would, but even though I had a ton of support in the beginning, it didn't necessarily prepare me for everything that I needed to walk into that classroom.
Having that sense of community
Yes.
is so important.
It is, and it's just, and you talk about it, there's business groups. I mean, every other industry has some type of support group. So why is it not such a prevalent thing in the educational field?
It's because you stay in education because of those that you surround yourself with. Like,
Yeah.
It's not a job that you can do by yourself.
No, and you find grade levels are they're really tight, and there will be groups within a school. But what are we doing from a bigger level? And I think that for me, I think part of that comes from, what are we doing from the school system level? And I do love that about Baldwin County because it is truly on the forefront. It's truly in the front of our minds. What are we doing? I mean, Teacher Cadet Program is the first thing that we're really trying to give them the support that they need because, Baldwin County is doing a great job of building their own pipeline with this program.
Absolutely.
And we have I think we also have the Future Teacher Scholarship Award.
Yes.
To really encourage our employees to go back to school if they want to be a teacher.
Absolutely.
And we have another one for our specific seniors who want to go into teaching. So it really encourages that too, to kind of help make that pipeline. So I do think that they're definitely on the forefront of that. I love that you said that.
They are. I mean, it's incredible when you look at what Baldwin County is doing, and you hear about what other school systems are doing, and I think it's just a think outside the box mentality from the top down, and really, I mean, even with the Teacher Cadet Program, there's so much outward support that this program gets from our superintendent all the way down, and it's just one of those programs that you just know that people are very much behind because they see the benefit and they see the end goal, especially for this particular school system and how much we can benefit from it in the long run.
Well, are y'all hiring?
We're always hiring. We're always. I tell people all the time that I will, even if I do not have a space for someone and they have an incredible interview, I will call our directors in a heartbeat and say, I don't know where we're going to put them, but this is the person. We actually just had it one day this week. Don't normally do our interviews, but I happened to be there and I interviewed this candidate and she was incredible. And I said, I don't know where I'm going to put her, but I can't let this person walk out of our building just because of the positivity. And her credentials were great, but her personality and her excitement and her passion were so much better.
Always goes back to the attitude, like you mentioned before.
It does. I asked her, I said, look, I know this interview is over, but do you just want to kind of stay and hang out? Because she was such a positive presence.
Yes.
And she just was the kind of person, she really was infectious. And I never stop hiring.
And that's what we're looking for at Baldwin Prep, right? I mean, that's a soft skill. I mean, and that's one of the things that you just can't teach kids, a good attitude. I mean,
You can't. And I think that for us, it's the mindset. And I tell our teachers this all the time. There are two ways of thinking, even from a teaching perspective, there are two ways of thinking. You can wake up in the morning and you're having a terrible day and life is knocking you down, and you can walk into your classroom and then your classroom is going to feel that. And we all have bad days, but I tell our teachers, for 8 hours, you have the ability to turn it all off and give students everything that you can. So it's a mindset thing. It's how you approach it. And for us, when they walk in and they're like, hey, I'm going to check this at the door. I'll pick it up when I leave. And they just allow students to love you unconditionally for that 8 hours. You can just kind of turn everything off and you don't have to pick it back up. You don't have to carry it with you. So I think that that's something that's really special with our teachers too, is that they really do try to create environments where they love their students as much as their students love them. It's a happy environment. You can just tell there's a mutual love between our students and our staff and our families. And it's because we do every day we get up and we try to give our very best individually and from a company standpoint, we're doing everything that we can to provide them the best level of care. So because they're trusting us with their most prized possessions, and that's what we owe to them.
Well, I'm sure you've got a long wait list.
We do. Look, I
just by talking to you, I can tell.
If I could take every student, I would. and we're set to grow. We will continue to grow.
How many locations do you have?
So we have two. We have both of them are in Daphne, and we are always actively looking for other areas where childcare there's a shortage. There was a shortage before COVID. There's a shortage now. So really, the things that limit access to care is space and availability for commercial real estate. That's one of the biggest issues is, it's not easy to renovate a space and turn it into a child care facility. So, but that doesn't mean that we're not looking at it every single day, just waiting for the right opportunity to come along. Because I feel like our mission is to impact early childhood across Baldwin County, eventually expand into other counties as well. Mainly because, we know what it's like to have subpar care. And I never want a parent to feel that anxiety that we felt, so many years ago when our kids were little.
I love that. Because I felt that before.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And, it's difficult to find a place that you trust and meets all of those boxes and checks all those boxes for you.
And I love that our students are getting the opportunity, and there's the opportunity there for you to open the doors for teacher cadets to come in and to learn and to see this environment, like this very intentional environment that's focused around students and the children and their development. And I just think it's such an awesome opportunity that Becky is partnering with you.
She's amazing.
They have this opportunity.
Yeah, Baldwin County has such a gem in her and in this program. And even then, thinking outside the box with her, because not every student who's going to major in education is going to go through her program. So now we've started to work backwards, and we're working with the local high schools and their co-op programs and their dual enrollment programs, because we can take those students and put them in our environment and give them the same access that some of the teacher cadets have. So it does it does open up a lot wider audience. And we know some students won't be that traditional four-year college degree that a lot of her students will be. So we kind of give them those stepping stones that match where they're at in life. Because I just feel really passionate about the fact that we need to give as many people an opportunity to experience the field of education as possible.
It's incredible. And
I think you're awesome in what you do, and obviously you stand out in your field. Did you mention before she came in that she's won some awards?
I saw on her website. Can you tell us a little bit about
Did you win some awards?
Oh, yes. So we have won Best of Baldwin in preschool for the past 2 years. So 2023
Congratulations.
and 2024. Well, thank you. I tell everybody I am blessed. I am only a small fraction of the success because our teachers allow me to be out and do things like this. They allow me to step into advocacy with people in Montgomery and different organizations where we're really trying to impact change on a bigger level. I would not be able to do that if I did not have incredible directors, incredible teachers who literally blow me away with the lessons that they teach and the things, even, our 1-year-olds, the things that they do in the classroom. And it's just, it's inspiring for me, and I would not be anywhere without the work that they put in on a daily basis.
Well, you've touched me today. I'm sure you have, because Brittany is a classroom teacher as well.
And I have a 1.5-year-old.
So you guys, you understand.
We do.
Completely.
We get it. And this is what it's all about, to partner with people like you who are just really innovators in their field and are just doing so much. The apprenticeships and making the pipelines for our students to help them with their future and, potentially get a job one day, and something that they're super passionate about. And it's people like you and businesses like you that help with that. And just, I can't tell you how much it means to us, as a school system and as an employee. So thank you for everything that you do.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm so fortunate to be on the advisory team for Teacher Cadet, and I'm just fortunate and humbled by the fact that I get to have some input and can drive some of the conversation that's happening in early childhood education.
Well, before we leave, what advice would you give these current students that are aspiring to be educators and even current educators?
I would tell them to first of all, get as much classroom experience as you can, whatever environment that looks like. If you don't have access immediately, talk to summer camps, work in the field as much as you can. Volunteer if you're in church, volunteer to teach preschool, whatever you possibly can, because the biggest thing that you want to make sure of is you want to make sure that it's the right age group for you. And the only way that you can determine whether that's the right age group for you is to be in that setting. And there's nothing wrong with thinking you want to be a pre-K teacher and then you decide that you maybe want to teach 6th grade math, but the only way you're going to figure that out is to really be standing in front of it. But also, I am very, very passionate about the fact that nothing will change if no one says anything. So if you are a teacher cadet and you feel like there's something that is missing, and there's something that you are struggling with in particular, have a voice, be vocal about it. Say, hey, I love what I'm doing, but this is where I need help, because everybody's journey is very different. And I think a lot of times we think that there's strength and people perceive us to be, successful by not saying anything. And all that does is lead to burnout that's unnecessary. But there again, if you have a mentor and you have a person that you can trust, then tell them what your particular struggles are and let them find resources to help in that particular area, because that's only going to make you more successful in the long run.
Nothing's going to change if nothing changes.
Right, exactly. And that's really where that's really kind of what's happening in the field, is that now people are speaking up, and it just takes people being brave enough to say, hey, this is where I think there's an issue or a pain point. And professionally, there's a lot to be said about being vulnerable and getting the support that you need from your colleagues, from your school system, finding trainings online, things like that. Because
not being afraid to try something
yes,
new.
Absolutely.
And fail at it.
Yes.
And then just turn around and learn and make yourself better.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing that I would say, just from my own personal experience.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity and
Yes.
the invite.
So this is Johnnie Frost, the owner of KinderKids, our CTE Trailblazer advisory board member, and the list goes on and on and on. So thank you so much. You have shared some great knowledge with us today, and I hope that you guys will come back and see us again in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you so much.